Consider the word melek. Now, did you talk about this much yesterday? I feel like I missed a whole day. What's unusual about this noun, melek? Have we had melek? Yeah, did you talk about this? Okay. What do we call these animals? Segolate nouns. Right. These are called segolate nouns. All right. Why are they called segolate nouns? Well, because they have lots of segols in them usually. Okay. Now, I don't want to get lost in the history of why segolate nouns are the way they are. Okay. But two things you got to know. One, they break all the rules. They're a law unto themselves. And two, there's lots of them. All right. So this isn't some little footnote that you can just let go, because you're going to run into segolate nouns all over the place. Now, the problem with segolate nouns is, first of all, the accent's on the first syllable. Secondly, we got short vowels and open syllables. Things aren't making sense here. Okay. However, when a segolate noun becomes plural, and that's the topic we're discussing right now, when we take the masculine singular noun melek, which, by the way, means king, and we want to make the word kings plural, all right, you know one thing we're going to do. What are we going to do? You're going to add an em ending to this animal, right? All right, that much you know. If you know nothing else, know that. Now, here's what happens, however. Segolate nouns are sort of really badly irregular in the masculine singular form. But in the plural form, they show up regular. They just sort of go to what a normal two-syllable noun ought to do. And you know what a normal two-syllable noun ought to do because we've just seen it in davar. The plural of davar is devarim. Right? Schwa, propretonic schwa. This comets is untouched by any changes, and there we go. What happens to melek when we make it plural? Well, first thing, this is a footnote. You got to change the final kaf to a medial kaf. Be alert to that. Somehow, someone doesn't look the same anymore, but all you've done is change to a medial kaf. But now all these segols over here that were giving us problems, you can almost just forget about them. All right? Don't try to move from these vowels to something else. Just forget about this and somewhat arbitrarily insert the pattern of a regular noun, because in the plural, segolate nouns show up regular, which means in the propretonic syllable, you're going to have a schwa. And in the pretonic syllable, you're going to have a comets. That's it. Always.
And the accent moves to the end.
Accent moves to the end where it belongs. Yeah. In a sense, they just sort of become regular. All right. Now, again, there's a historical reason for that. This isn't just voodoo vowel changes. Okay. And the reason is that the development of the language created the peculiarities in the singular form, not in the plural form. These were originally regular nouns. I mean, what's interesting, Hebrew used to have case endings. See, this is what all went wrong. By the way, did you realize that? There are no case endings. Is this good news or bad news?
That's great.
Coming out of Greek, this is always good news. Yeah. In about 3 weeks, you'll realize how helpful case endings are. It's a blessing and a curse, right? In any case, the segolate nouns were, that's the point. They said segolate nouns were originally more regular nouns. When Hebrew lost its case endings, then it created problems, especially in the singular, but the plural nouns were sort of unaffected by this. You don't have to know that. This is kind of the historical reason for explaining this. So bottom line is that in the plural, the segolates, now I suppose the one problem you can run into is, let's say you confront a noun like this, have never seen it before in your life, and are trying to figure out what it is. All right? You see, milakim, your first instinct, of course, now, having paid attention for the last half hour, is to see this em ending, and you know something about the noun, what? It's plural, all right? But now you're asking yourself, what's the singular form here? Well, it's got these three consonants, a meme, a lamed, and a kaf. Oh yeah, that would probably be a final kaf. But now let's see, I don't recognize anything here. So this is probably a schwa, and if I run the rule, comet, short schwa, appropriatonic backwards, this should be a comet, and that's a comet. So by analogy to davar, you see, you create the word malak. And you're going, I never learned that word. And then you look it up in the lexicon, and it isn't there. Okay? But what will be there under the same consonants is not malak, but melech. Yeah? And chances are you stumble into the right word that way, even when you're stumped. What usually happens, again, and you're still very early in the game, is, believe it or not, you actually get to know these words. So that when you see these three consonants, you almost automatically recognize melech and not malak, even though it's a segolate. But the fact is, you can't, putting in the segols, you can't really get there from here just by changing vowels. The vowels all of a sudden just follow a different pattern in the plural. I'm making this sound much more complicated than it is. Try your hand on page, now the exercise is lesson 2, page 19. All right? You do drill A and B, at least that much. Try your hand on this. Now you're going to struggle because there are some things here you're going to run into that we haven't explained yet. Okay? And you read the whole chapter and you might figure them out on your own because everything's explained in there. We have essentially covered, in terms of the chapter, page 15, 16, and the top of 17. At the top of 17, under B, it talks about segolate nouns, and that's what I just showed you here at the end. So that's as far as we've gone in class presentation, and if you can read the rest of it, we'll try to make sense out of all of this then this afternoon. Okay? Good.